Next up, guys, this is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this video I want to look at the DC Universe Classics Legion of Superheroes 12-pack. The first figure I'm looking at is Superboy, and he's not based on any of the other Superman bodies. This is a new body. Well, not a new body, but a smaller body. He's got a new cape and a new head sculpt with a big cheesy grin on it. Teeth look kind of awkward, but still pretty decent. All of the 12 characters have their ring on their finger, so I'm not going to point that out every time. And I'm not going to go over the articulation every time. I'm just going to point out unique sculpts, unique things like that, and I'll go over the height as well. So this guy stands just over 6 inches tall, and like I said, he's got the new head and his cape, and otherwise he's got a pretty standard body with the sculpted boots. So there is Superboy. Next up is Ultra Boy. So let's see if I can get all these names right, because there are so many of them, it's going to be hard to remember them all accurately. But this is Ultra Boy. Pretty standard body. It's almost exactly a standard body, like no sculpt at all. He does have the belt that's an add-on piece, which they glued on, although I don't know if it's technically glued or not. But so there's the belt, and then he has the cuffs on the top of his boots. Otherwise, it's just paint app and head sculpt. The head sculpt's pretty solid. The hair's painted well, and the line work on all the rest of the paint job is pretty solid as well. And he's on a little bit of a bigger body, so he stands at just over 6.5 inches tall. So that is Ultra Boy. The next one I want to look at is Cosmic Boy. These guys, I should point out, they have just about the worst names ever. But here's Cosmic Boy. He's got, again, a pretty plain sculpt. He's got the wrist cuffs here, or the glove cuffs, whatever you want to call that. Those are sculpted. And then the same thing on the boots. The rest is all standard sculpt, plain old body with pretty solid paintwork, especially the black lines on the torso there. Pretty solid work. And then the face is just pretty bland, but still decent enough. And the hair has some shading on it. He stands just over 6 inches tall, like Superboy. Stand. Okay, next up we have probably the worst name out of all of them, Karate Kid, which is also another character from a movie that has nothing to do with superheroes. So here is Karate Kid. He's got kind of a weird head sculpt, but it's okay, I guess. The paint's okay. This whole shirt is an overlayer that goes over the body. He still has his ab crunch and everything, so the articulation is standard, but this is a softer material for his shirt. And he's got this big collar, and he's got some sculpted sleeves and sculpted wristbands, and this other part which is separate, so you can still use the waist twist. And then he has some sculpted boot cuffs, and he stands at 6 inches tall. He also does have the double jointed elbows. He's the only one that has that. I'm not sure what's up with that, but they're there. So that's the Karate Kid. Next is Saturn Girl. I believe it's Saturn Girl. Let me think for a second. Yeah, Saturn Girl. That's her. Paint job could be a little better. There's some marks on her chest and her abdomen. I don't know what's up with that, but it's not terribly noticeable. The line work isn't the best either. And the little planet logo is okay, but the line work's pretty bad. She doesn't have much going on in terms of sculpt at all, other than she's got this soft goods. Well, it's not soft goods, but it's soft material for the skirt, and that's a separate piece, so the articulation's standard for her. And she does have a nice head sculpt, actually. Pretty good job with that. Nice paintwork on the hair and on the face. So there's Saturn Girl. Next up is Wildfire, which is my favorite of the smaller figures. He's got the head sculpt, new head sculpt of course, and he's got the little collar piece, nice paintwork on the star and wings. This line work could be a little bit better on his abdomen, but it's not horrible. He's got Superman style belt, he's got some sculpted gloves, and some sculpted boots. Now the thing about the boots that really bothers me, if you can tell, this boot cuff is a lot taller this way, obviously taller, than this one. From the front it's pretty obvious. It looks kind of weird. Maybe it was like that in the comics, I don't know, but it's just not symmetrical, so that's not the best. But he is on the bigger body again, and he stands a little over 6.5 inches tall, so that is Wildfire. We'll stand him there. Next up we have, is a Colossal Kid. Let me check, I gotta check that. Colossal Boy. Colossal Boy, of course. Real original. So this guy's pretty much the same thing as one of the Collect and Connects or Build-A-Figures. He's full size. He's definitely bigger than the rest. He's about 10 inches tall, so really good size to him. He's got the plain old body for being a Collect and Connect, which I really appreciate. I like having like the standard buck just blown up, so that's pretty good. They have the sculpted gloves. He's got this softer material that connects to his belt and then into his back here. He's got really nice head sculpt. Reminds me a lot of Giant Man. And nice paintwork everywhere, and he's got the sculpted boot cuffs. So there is Colossal Boy, and we're gonna thread him in behind these other guys since he's so big. Hopefully he doesn't knock everything over. Don't fall over. Okay. Next up we have Lightning Lad, and he's actually a pretty decent looking figure. The yellows don't match perfectly, but the paintwork, the line work is pretty solid. I like that they put the line for the pants all the way through on the joint, even though it doesn't go all the way back. It's pretty solid. He doesn't have any sculpt work out of the ordinary other than the head and the ring, so that's okay. His hair's a little bit neon. It's kind of bright, kind of orangey, but it's not too far off, so that's okay with me. And the head sculpt's decent enough, so that's Lightning Lad. Oh, and his boots are glossy black, so that does break him up a little bit, so that's nice. Stand him there. Next up we have Timberwolf, which he also has a plain old standard sculpt, no detailed sculpting at all, except for his head, which is pretty cool. He's got the Wolverine hair going on there. His eyes are painted solid white, so it's a decent head sculpt with a pretty cool looking paint job. The wolf emblem on his chest looks really nice, and the line work's not terrible, so I'm okay with that. Otherwise he's pretty bland, but still decent looking figure. He stands at 6 inches tall, and I didn't do Lightning Lad, so he also stands at 6 inches tall. Since these are mostly young people, that makes sense that they're a little bit smaller. Next up is Brainiac 5. He's got a pretty cool head sculpt, nice comb over, green skin, yellow hair, purple eyes, nice shading in the hair. Overall it looks pretty good. He's got a lot of new sculpt parts. It might all be new, as far as maybe they borrowed the sleeves from maybe Starman, I don't know, but he's got a lot of sculpted parts since he's got the shirt on everywhere, and then the baggier pants and the belt. The only problem is the pink plastic doesn't match everywhere, so it's not terrible, but it could be a little bit better. But anyway, there he is. He's a little bit taller, I believe. Let me check. He is, yeah, about 6 1/4, 6.5 inches tall. So there's Brainiac 5. Stand him in the middle there. Then we have Chameleon Boy, Chameleon Lad. I don't remember. Let me check. Like I said, these aren't the best names. Chameleon Boy. Okay, so I guess there's only the 2 lads, if I remember correctly. So he's got a pretty cool head sculpt. He's got the little antennae there. The problem with the paint, though, is his one eyebrow is missing a chunk, and then it's like the paint's pulling away at the top of the ear. I don't know what's up with that, but otherwise it's still okay. He's got some shading going on, so that's nice. And he's got this new sculpt for the shoulder pads, which is actually pretty cool. Doesn't really get in the way of the articulation too much, and it does look pretty solid. Let's try to focus, camera. The line work on the yellow could be a little bit better, but I'm going to give him a little credit since yellow, or a little leeway since yellow is tough. And there is shading just about throughout everywhere, even though it's really faint and probably hard to see. There is shading, so that's nice. He stands at, let's go inches since I'm used to inches, 6 1/4, so good size for him. He's on the slimmer body, by the way. So is Timberwolf, I believe. Maybe Cosmic Kid too, not sure. And last of the regular figures, we have Matter Eater Lad, which I said the Karate Kid's name is the worst just because it's Karate Kid, but this guy's name is probably worse than that. He's got the most variation in the paint job, I think, and it actually looks pretty good. The lines could be a little better in some places, but it's not terrible. The yellow is relatively solid, and just the combination of the greens and blacks and everything looks really good. It looks like on camera this part of the hip is showing up brighter. I can't see that in person, so if you do notice that, don't worry about that. You're not going to see it in real life. And he has the gloves painted on, not sculpted, unfortunately. And the rest is all just paint too. There's no sculpt work. His head, decent sculpt work. There's a little bit of shading in the hair, and I guess he's supposed to have a mouthful of matter since his name is Matter Eater Lad. So there's him, and he stands 6 1/4 inches tall. We also have the Invisible Kid, and he stands just a little bit taller than some of the other guys. He's about 6 1/4, 6.5 inches tall. Not too much to look at as far as the sculpt goes, but it looks pretty good for what it is. So we're just going to stand him right in the front. And last but not least, we have Proti, which is just a little mashed potato guy. I don't know anything about this character. I know he's not actually mashed potatoes, but that's what he looks like. He is painted, he's glossy, he's got shading. Of course, there's no articulation, no nothing, just looks like a blob of plastic. So I don't know anything about him, but there he is, and he stands 2 1/4 inches tall. So I'll put him next to Invisible Kid. And there you have it, the total 12 pack of the Legion of Superheroes. It's a pretty good pack. It's getting kind of hard to come by these days, so if you can get a good deal on it, I suggest you do so. Let me see if I can get him to bounce. It's not going to happen. There we go. Alright, so if you can find a good deal, I definitely suggest you pick it up because it's definitely a nice display piece, and there's some pretty nice sculpts and nice paint apps in it too, so I think it's worth the buy if you can get a good deal. I got a good deal on it, so I'm definitely happy I got it. Nice addition to the collection. There you have it, guys. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more figure reviews, more custom figures, and other good stuff, and in the meantime, keep collecting.